All right. Well, hey, Eileen, it's so good to see you again. This is the second time today. So Eileen is living in California. She's a top colleague that we've kind of met at top gatherings and just had these beautiful chance encounters and trying to consider bringing ourselves closer together and connecting. And we've got her on our North Star Associates page, and I wanted to introduce you to her and have her tell us a little bit about your work as an OD consultant, as someone who works in social justice, a variety of sectors. So I wondered if you could just describe your work to us.
Oh, sure. Thanks again for inviting me onto your platform. Barbara, it's always just a joy to be able to chop it up with you and swap stories and exchange ideas and just check in. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Um, so I am in the Bay Area. I'm in Oakland, California, and I'm a Bay Area native. We're pretty rare these days. I have been in OD consulting for over 16 years now, and my primary focus is around working with groups, working with teams, doing strategic planning and action planning, and also facilitating different focus groups or work groups to do needs assessments with that lead towards change management. And I have a passion for working with groups that are doing some type of either human services work that are human focused. And as an OD consultant, organizational development consultant, that is the emphasis of our work. It is not just looking at the logistics around like strategic planning, but really looking at filling in the gaps of where people fit into place. Like there's a difference between change and transitions. Change happens, transitions deal with the
Mm,
people who are experiencing the change. So looking at
mm,
how they're and experiencing change. So we get to help leaders look at those gaps in terms of helping to make the changes that they seek, the conversations that they want to have, or the goals that they're making achievable and sustainable.
wow. That is so cool. I've kind of wanted to be want to be OD consultant sometimes, and I just ended up sticking with facilitation. But I know facilitation is just one of the many tools that you use.
Mhm.
So tell us what you love about it. What delights you about being in the consulting field?
I think what I love, one of the things I absolutely love about consulting is the breadth of work that I get to do across industries. I have done work with government agencies, with um, nonprofits, with for profits, with my background is in higher ed. So I've
Mm,
often found myself trying to escape higher education to explore new territories and frontiers. But it's still just really around being student, helping organizations and institutions stay focused on being student centered. So that's always been a joy.
mm.
And I think the biggest delight I find is when I get to see the light bulbs go off in the people that I'm working with, or seeing consensus building and happen and where it hasn't traditionally been able to happen with certain groups,
Yeah.
um, where there's been tensions around power, helping them have difficult conversations, and helping shine a light or bring the microphone to the elephant in the room. So there's a delight.
I love that expression. Bring the microphone to the elephant in the room. I'll have to remember that. That's sweet. And I know too that there's a lot of challenges, and a number of people have expressed, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, an interest in going into consulting or becoming a facilitator, doing more of it. I think we should let them know some of the challenges as well. What have you experienced as challenges?
One of the biggest challenges that I had to contend with when I can't even believe it'll be a year and 2 weeks. It'll be 12 months in 2 weeks that we have been sheltered in place.
Yes.
And one of the biggest contentions I had was trying to do what I do the way that I
Mm.
do, as dynamic as I am, virtually.
Hmm.
And making the shift that I'm spending more energy trying to do it the same way than adjusting to the possibilities of doing it differently virtually. So
Yeah.
what I mean by that is there are certain nuances in nonverbal communication that get to be expressed when you're working with a group live versus when you're in a virtual platform. Like um, if we're doing video conferencing or if it's on the phone, this hybrid of platforms makes it very challenging for people for us to feel one another's energy. We're feeling the energy differently. We're still feeling it, but like if I need people to work in small groups, it takes more time for me to go in and out of breakout rooms versus if we were in a live facilitation event, I would be able to float between tables, float between spaces,
Mm-hmm.
and I can easily see another group needing help or being stuck. I can overhear things, I can multitask. And that's more difficult in a virtual space. So that's been a very big challenge. It's also been a little challenging getting participants sometimes to understand the work that's going to be involved when I'm facilitating, when I'm consulting. Um, Things take more time in a virtual space
Mm.
because you're accounting for the technology, you're accounting for time lapses. I hope it doesn't happen here, but we're also accounting for unstable internet connections, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
But it's still so worth it because the work still has to get done. So
Yeah.
really, pivoting and recalibrating and being open to doing things differently.
Yeah. Thank you for that reminder. I've certainly experienced that a lot, and also just enjoyed, despite the frustration, as you say, almost like what I call the 3D dimension of in-person work versus the 2D dimension. But there is an energy there, and how do you like tune into that, as you say? And I hadn't even thought about the small group work, how you can just see in a moment in face-to-face, like you can just look at them and know they're struggling, or someone's dominating the conversation, or they're only 1/4 of the way through the activity that you've assigned. So thank you. Yeah, that's great. I wanted to hear, I think it'd be really interesting for some of us to hear a little bit about maybe a job that you shined at. Something unusual happened and you just aced it, or whatever I don't know if that's a correct expression, but you really shined at it.
One of my strengths is being intuitive and being intentional about how I listen to the people that I'm in front of. So you have to be, I choose to be intentional and intense in my listening. So I'm intentionally listening for not just what they're saying, but what they're not saying. So
Mm,
what are the underlying either contradictions or motivations or history? What are the things behind what people aren't saying that can be
mm-hmm,
a driver for me asking more questions? And then being really intense on trying to hear what people are trying to share or where they're trying to get to. So I don't have a dog in the fight about what people want to share or what they want to say. My job, I feel like, is to support them in saying what needs to be said in order to get the work done.
mm,
Because there's a time and place for everything. You don't have to share everything, but some things need to come out, and sometimes the conversation can be diverting to another direction.
mm-hmm,
So there was a recent event where I was working with a team, and when we had our design meeting with the client, um, I could just tell that there was something that was missing from the previous conversation we'd had. So
yeah.
when they brought in their participants to do some action planning, most of the participants, like more than half, did not know why they were there.
Mm,
Like literally in our introduction, I heard things like, well, I just came just to see what this is all about. I was just curious. And it was action planning, which meant the people in the room were going to be the ones to carry the work forward to the rest of the organization. So they didn't even know that they were there for that. So I quickly found a way to reiterate and redefine the purpose of the meeting, the work that was expected ultimately, and then building some consensus of their understanding that they would be carrying the work forward so that they could be real clear. Either they were going to be present to it or they weren't, but they needed to share that. And that was really helpful because we went from identifying like 5 core focus areas down to 3 that they could focus on because they didn't have the right people in the room to do the other 2. It just would have failed.
Oh, amazing.
So
Yeah, that's what we call like sort of just pivoting on a very small window of opportunity, right? When you see something, some huge gap. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful illustration of how we use the competency, facilitator competency of being flexible and adaptable and really discerning how to bring out the wisdom of the group and make sure that everyone starts from the same place. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that before I ask you the last question?
No, that was it. I would just say that trusting my gut was helpful.
Yeah.
And bringing that up to the group really ended up helping them. So not just sitting on what didn't feel right, but bringing it out was very helpful. So just encouraging, always think about that. If you feel something in your gut, find a way to share it with the client because it can help the group go in the correct direction or in the better direction or that they really need to go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, the words transparency, honesty, courage come to mind as you say that. Because it's the end of Black History Month, I wanted you to potentially share a mentor or somebody from the Black community that you have admired or still admire that our readers and our listeners should know about.
Carol H. Williams is one of my sheroes. She is the CEO and founder of Carol H. Williams Advertising. And she is a mogul who also went to my alma mater, San Francisco State. I remember when I was in undergrad, I had the distinct privilege of having I was president of the National Association of Black Accountants at our campus chapter. And I was able to bring in these amazing alumni to talk about some of their accomplishments. And it was such a blessing. She was so generous and succinct and powerful. You could just feel her brilliance when she stepped into the room, and yet it was so inviting and inclusive. And one of the things that I remember that she shared was that we all have a place in our purpose, and that our gifts will make room for us as long as we honor those gifts. So I always carry that with me because here it was, she was this amazing, she still is, she's this amazing dynamic force of excellence, of Black excellence. And she is also, to me, a guide of what it would be like when I want to hire and mentor and bring on interns and help to nurture people who are serious about pursuing their craft. And so it was an honor to be able to glean that from her over the course of a few conversations and following her and her career. She's just so, she to me is a vanguard of Black women who do what we do. We can't help but show up and be diligent and intentional about knowing the impression that we make is not just in the work that we do, but also in the shoulders that we stand on, but for the feet that we will support when they're on our shoulders. And
Oh boy,
so
I love that.
I really, just love being able to say that I met her back in the day, and she gave. She's
Oh,
just to follow her. She's just she is a blessing. She
mm,
is and a light of excellence. She is
yeah.
Regal.
Caroline Williams, right?
Carol H. Williams,
Carol H. Carol.
and then H. Williams.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you for sharing all of that beautiful wisdom. And I so look forward to working with you more, Eileen. So we'll end it here, and thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Make it a great day.